Hi guys, happy Sunday. How's everyone? So I'm going to record a video for the next week, including the full moon in Pisces today, because I have to get ready for my departure from Bulgaria. So anyway, I just want to do a short recap for what's been going on this week, and also today we are experiencing some things that are going on, and then this is opening us for the new week, which is leading us towards the full moon in Pisces, which will be taking place for some of you on Wednesday, for some of us on Thursday, depending where you are in the world. So anyway, as we might remember, this week just gone, we had the second square between Venus and Jupiter. We had the opposition between Mars and Neptune. Then on Wednesday, Sun moved into the sign of Virgo, so we officially in Virgo season. Happy birthday to all Virgos. On the same day, Mercury stationed retrograde, so you might have noticed that in your reality that Mercury is playing tricks, as it always does. It definitely does with me. And then what else was going on? We had Mercury was in trine with Jupiter at the time when it stationed retrograde, and we had Mars trine Pluto. This was very important. This was happening on Friday, and because Mars is the ruler of the North Node, and Pluto, of course, is the evolution, and Pluto is squaring the nodes, but the resolution is the South Node. But still, Mars, during its transit through Virgo, which started on July 10th, accumulated information that now passed to Pluto, and this is supporting us on our evolutionary path, wherever we decide we want to go with that. And yeah, yesterday, which was Saturday, today Sunday, yesterday a moon moved into the sign of Capricorn, so it's getting closer to Pisces. And yeah, so today, Sunday, Sun is opposing Saturn, retrograde in Pisces. So this is something that's going to be still active during this full moon in Pisces, so we're paying attention. Actually, Saturn will be in the closing phase with the full moon, even though like from the moon perspective is in a new phase, but Saturn is in the closing phase to the full moon. So this is still going to be active. So Sun now is going through everything that Mars touched during its transit through Virgo, and Sun is now illuminating it. So it's bringing it to our consciousness that, okay, what now that we, Mars pointing this out, because Mars is like this arrow thing, right? Because Mars is how Pluto acts consciously. Now that Mars pointed this out, that, okay, this needs to adjust, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. And now Sun is illuminating and helping us to understand what that actually means in my life, but because before Mars was just like pointing his finger and saying, yes, this, but we were still in Virgo, Leo season, so we were like, sorry, I have too much fun, or I have too many other things going on. But now Sun is bringing our focus, because Sun is the center stage. Sun is when our attention shines, right? And our attention is focused on. So now Sun is touching everything that Mars had gone through in the, during its transit through Virgo. And now Sun is bringing it to our consciousness. As I said, today Sun is opposing Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is the ruler of Pluto, because Pluto is in Capricorn again. And Saturn is retrograde. So Saturn is helping us to reevaluate, what out of what we thought that was part of our everyday structure, reality that held us safe and secure and had a meaning before, it just doesn't anymore. We redefining what meaning is for us. And then today is the day when Mars is moving into the sign of Libra, and it's going to remain there until October 12th. So it's going to move into Scorpio just on time for the first eclipse, which will be taking place on October 14th. So anyway, so this is what's going on today. So we're paying attention because, as I mentioned, this opposition between Sun and Saturn will be still active during this full moon, but today is the point when it's happening exactly, and Mars is moving into Libra. So we start a new week tomorrow, which is Monday 28, with Moon moving into the sign of Aquarius. Then depends where you are in the world. For some of you guys across the Atlantic, it will be happening tomorrow night, late night. For us here in Europe, and obviously people further away, Far East and Australia, it will be happening on the 29th, on Tuesday, and that is Uranus station in retrograde. So Uranus is gonna join the retrogradia. We already have 6 planets, Chiron, and now Uranus is joining as well. So it's gonna be seven of them in retrograde up there. So that's gonna be fun times. And Uranus is going to be retrograde until January next year, late January. So even when Pluto goes into the sign of Aquarius again, Uranus will be still retrograde, still will be going for it. So this is very important because, of course, planet being in retrograde is on an accelerated path of evolution. It's make us to reevaluate, to go over something. So it's like it takes us out of our, like automatic pilot track. And now it's like, okay, well, we have to kind of go over it and decide, is this still it, right? So with Uranus, it's all about individuation, breaking free, about being able to be authentic, because of course Aquarius is in opposition with Leo. So it's about who are you, uniquely you, that makes you special, that makes you like yourself, that unique expression of the source, right? So when Uranus goes retrograde, this is gonna come to our consciousness. I'm born with Uranus retrograde, so this is kind of the story of my life. But now everybody is going to be experiencing that, like, oh yeah, what makes me feel unique and individuated? How do I want to set myself free and, be this unique expression where I stand out of the crowd and I'm not doing what everybody else is doing? So fun times for sure. Okay, and then on Wednesday, well, as I mentioned, for some of you, this is when the full moon is going to take place. For me, in Europe, it's going to happen on Thursday morning at 3:35 Central European time, but for you guys in the US, it's going to happen on Wednesday night. So Wednesday 30th, for some of us, it's Thursday 31st of August. So the full moon is going to take place in Pisces, as we know, on 7 degrees 25 minutes. So when we put these two together, we come to number 14, which is number 5, which is once again a number of change. And then it's, as I mentioned, it's for us here, it's happening in the early morning. And as I already mentioned, because of what I just said, it's happening today, the moon is going to be in conjunction with Saturn, because Saturn is still in opposition with Sun. So Saturn is in Pisces. As I mentioned, the structure of reality that you believe was your life, it's very likely kind of dissolving at the moment. I feel that this is the story probably for everyone on this planet right now, that things that kind of made sense, had a meaning, kind of made us feel safe and secure, as I mentioned before, created this structure, everyday structure, is kind of like everything is changing. And now being in Virgo season, Virgo is helping us to readjust, be practical and readjusting, reorganize things. Like this is the time a lot of people do cleaning and organizing everything and preparing for the kids going back to school. Some are already at school, but some are still, enjoying the last week of August as a vacation, summer holidays. And yeah, things are changing, things are adjusting. So this full moon, I want to dig deeper into it, but to be honest, after the full moon, there is nothing really happening for the rest of the week exactly. Like the aspects I'm going to mention, they will be in effect. They already happened, as we just had the Venus square to Jupiter. It already took place this week, just gone. And Venus trine to Chiron, that already happened twice. We're going to have third Venus-Jupiter conjunction on 17th of September and third Venus-Chiron trine on the 23rd of September. So these things are still in action. During the time of this full moon in Pisces, these things are still valid because they are still within the degree orb that we use for evolutionary astrology, which is 10 degrees. But they are not exact anymore. The intensity of the aspect already took place, and then will be another build up because when Venus goes direct on September 4th. So, in later September, it will be building up towards it again, the third hit, which is very interesting because I was just putting in my calendar the transits for next month, and we're going to have all the thirds, the third Venus square to Uranus, third Venus Jupiter square, third Venus Chiron trine, and also Mercury and Jupiter is going to be the third trine. Everything is the last one, because we had all these multiple aspects between the planets, but because everybody is going retrograde, it was the forward aspect, retrograde aspect from one side, and then when these planets, in this case obviously Mercury and Venus are the faster moving planets, there's going to be another hit. So That's what I mean. Like this Virgo season, you know, as of now, until Sun moves into the sign of Libra on 27th of September during the equinox, this is the opportunity for us to go over a lot of things. I mean, all the planets are in retrograde, more or less. Mars doesn't have time to go retrograde, as I mentioned many times. Mars is direct the entire year because it's like, sorry, I'm the ruler of the North Node, I don't have time. And Jupiter is going retrograde right after Venus station direct, and of course Mercury is not retrograde forever, it's gonna station direct on September 15th, right after the new moon in Virgo that he is the ruler of. So during the new moon in Virgo, which is the next lunation, Mercury as the ruler will be still in retrograde, just about, but it will not station direct until afterwards. So, okay, so for the rest of this week, after this lunation hits us, because there is a build up again, as there always is, it will be quiet. Like Moon will be doing what she always does, connecting with everything as she always does. Moon is always busy. Like Moon is always busy because Moon moves very fast. She goes through each sign in like 2.5 days, 2.5 days. So Moon touches everything, makes every single possible aspect to everything in your chart, and everything in the sky, of course. So the next stuff obviously then start happening the week after next, after the lunation. We have some of the aspects that are present during this full moon in Pisces that will be becoming exact, because some, as I just mentioned, already took place. Because of the retrograde, they will take place for the third time at the second half of September, but some are just building up, some haven't taken place yet. So okay, so let's dive into this full moon. Okay, so we had the new moon in Pisces. You can go back to February 20th, 2023, so this year. It was on a 1 degree 22 minutes, and isn't that interesting? 1 degree 22 minutes comes to number 5 as well. And that's what I just said now, that this lunation is happening at the number 5. Didn't I just said that? Yeah, 7 degrees 25 minutes. 2 and 5 is 7. 7 and 7 is 14. 14, 1 and 4 is 5. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? And I'm getting goosebumps. So Spirit is confirming there is definitely something shifting, for sure. But because it's Pisces, it's all behind the veil. Because Pisces is intangible. Pisces is all this water. It's all this water, and because it's Neptune, it's this fog, and it's not clear. It's not clear, even though it is a full moon. So we might have, just like I described in my previous video, which was about more of a practical application of astrology into my life in this case, because that's the only one I'm living. There are things shifting. You might look around your life and everything looks the same. You still go to the same job, you married to the same person, you have the same friends, you eat in the same dinner, whatever it is. But inside of us, things are changing. But we cannot, it's not tangible. Like we cannot go yeah, exactly, this is what it is. I can hold it, I can smell it, I can taste it. Like it's nothing like that, but things are already changing. So on the 20th of February this year, we had the new moon in Pisces on 1 degree 22 minutes, which comes to number 5. And let's just count this. 20 and February 22, there's number 4. We are in the year 7, so that's number 11. Interesting. Angel numbers. And now it's happening. Well, this is tricky because obviously everybody has it at different times. So for some of you, it's on the 30th of 8, there's number 11, and in year 7, so there's number 9, completions, right? Completions. And for some of us, it's number 10, which is new beginnings, endings and new beginnings. Very interesting. So anyway, all in all, change is coming, and we know that. We've been knowing this for a while, so this is not something that comes as a surprise. However, because it's Pisces, we don't know what it is. There could be a lot of confusion, there would be a lot of disillusionment, a lot of trying to escape into fantasy world, which is kind of why this is in opposition, because we are in Virgo season, and Virgo is no, we have to be practical. We have to hold to our guns. We have to get the step-by-step process done. We need to know what's going on here, be efficient, it has to have a logical process, right, happening. And with Virgo, it's all about self-mastery. Virgo is trying to achieve self-mastery. That's why there is this desire for perfection, because it looks up to Pisces and says, oh, Pisces, you are perfect. I want to be perfect like you. So let me go and work on it. But that never happens, because we go perfect when we're in a spirit form. It's not possible in a human form, because we are a unique expression of the source that comes with imperfections. So anyway, so in February, something got seeded, which again, I mean, is a new moon in Pisces, you know, that happened in February. So it's like, that is like zero clarity, because it's a new moon, which is like no light anyway. And then it's a Pisces. So it's like, well, all you can trust is your intuition. There is nothing else guiding you here, because everything is confusing. You know, it's like driving in a fog. All you can see is like few, you know, steps ahead of you. That's it. And now we have a full moon in Pisces. So it's kind of in all this nebulous confusion. It's like, okay, now I'm getting more clarity, even though everything is still intangible and confusing, but I kind of understand something better than I did in February. And also, again, to remind everyone, February was before Pluto even moved out of Capricorn into Aquarius. Saturn was obviously still in Aquarius. Mars was still in Gemini, I believe. It was a completely different times. You know, the nodes were in Taurus, Scorpio, of course, because they only shifted in July. So it was a completely different story going on back then, completely different story, and something got seeded, because then we know we had the eclipse season, double new moon in Aries, all these things. So, you know, the true show is gonna get going until from the full moon in Aries that's taking place on September 29th. This is when things will start moving forward, like I would imagine at a great speed, because it's Aries, right? And Mars will be still in Libra, but it will be moving into its rulership by traditional rulership in Scorpio only like short while after that. So things are going to start taking on momentum of a faster speed, because of course slowly the planets will start going direct. I mean, yes, Venus is gonna go direct shortly now, like on September 4th. Jupiter goes retrograde. Jupiter will remain retrograde until December 31st. Mercury will go direct on September 15th, but Mercury goes retrograde every few months, so that's like nothing crazy here. Mercury just helps us to reevaluate our thinking process and go over things and contracts and stuff, and makes technology play out, and miscommunications, create miscommunications on all these kind of things, which to a certain extent were probably present in many people's lives right now, are present, because Mercury is obviously still retrograde, unless you have Mercury retrograde natally, and then you go like, yeah, full stream ahead now, what do you mean, you know, my brain is working just fine, and the rest of us like, you know, like, I don't know what you're talking about. So anyway, so yeah, so the planets will slowly start going direct. Well, Pluto will turn direct on October 11th, just as I mentioned in my past videos. It's going to be going direct just on time for the eclipses. So, you know, Pluto doesn't want to miss the show. You know, I need to be direct for that to watch it. So anyway, so there is a lot happening, for sure. As I mentioned, there are some aspects that are still in action that already became exact, you know, this week. And then we have aspects that are building up towards its exact position. And that, as I mentioned, I might not actually mention, we'll have Jupiter coming into the trine, or Sun coming into trine with Jupiter. This is something that is already active during this full moon, because of the, what is it, like 8 degrees? Yeah, 8 degrees, so we already counted. We cannot count the sextile between Moon and Jupiter, but it will happen anyway, because Moon moves so fast. It's gonna happen on the same day, well, on the 31st for us here in Europe. So Jupiter is coming into the trine with Sun during this lunation, but the exact trine is going to take place on, let me see, at my million notes I have written here in a very small space of time. So it's gonna happen exactly on September 8th. September 8th, which is a 1 week. It's the in between lunations. It's the 1 week before the new moon in Virgo. So then, as I already mentioned, the last square between Venus and Jupiter will happen on September 17th. At that time, Venus will be direct, Jupiter will be retrograde, and the last trine between Venus and Chiron will take place on September 23rd. Venus will be direct, Chiron is still in retrograde. Chiron is retrograde until late December. I think December 27th, if I remember correctly. So anyway, so this is all in action. So these are aspects we're familiar with. We know Venus is actually a ruler of Jupiter. Mars, as the ruler of the North Node, is the ruler of Chiron. So we can see that all these aspects that are happening at the moment are actually supporting us on this evolutionary path, and to help us understand what is that thing, you know, the South Node as the resolution to Pluto square in the nodes, pointing us towards Libra, you know, like this relationship and societal expectations and programming and, you know, all these things that came from someone else, external authority. So that's why Saturn is in Pisces, retrograde, is going, no, you have to go within. You need to take responsibility and become your own authority, because times are moving ahead. So like wanting someone else to be in charge is just going to make you feel lost and confused. That's why Saturn is like, nothing to do with me. I'm just helping you to dissolve things over here, like things that lost meaning and don't make us feel safe and secure anymore, which is the story for most people in the world right now. But anyway, so yeah, so these aspects are becoming exact again at the late September, obviously right after the Virgo new moon. And then another thing that is extremely, extremely interesting is that we have Mars in conjunction. This is the blind spot. Mars in conjunction to Saturn, and once again, we are having Sun in opposition to Saturn today as I speak, right? And Sun is going over everything that Mars had gone over already when it was in Virgo, you know, like it's still in Virgo as I'm recording this, but it's gonna move out of Virgo later on today. So Mars at that time obviously will be already in the sign of Libra. It will be making an inconjunction to Saturn, now retrograde, and this is going to be exact on September 2nd, but already happening during this lunation, already in action. So Mars is now in, by the time of the full moon in Pisces, it's going to be in Libra. It's going to obviously conjunct the, you know, South Node at some point very soon. And Mars is saying that, okay, now I'm in Libra, I feel a little bit like, well, we know we need to reevaluate our relationships. We need to we are looking for equality. Okay, let's just go to this. So the whole point with Libra is Libra wants balance, because Libra, despite what most people might think, like, oh yeah, Libra is about scales, yeah, so it's about balance, yeah, but Libra is not balanced. Libra is learning how to become balanced, you know, by integration into society, because as I mentioned previously, Virgo is actually the transitionary archetype, is a mutable sign, that is taking us from southern hemisphere of your chart, which is all about you, you know, the houses 1 to 5 is just all about you, you know, it's like from being born until adolescence. And then is Virgo, which is this humble pie, you know, that, oh yeah, you know, you want to get a job but you have no experience, you know, the catch-22 that I'm sure majority of humans went through when you're trying to get your first job, and they say, well, but you don't have any experience, and you go, well, duh, how am I going to get experience if nobody wants to hire me, right? So yeah, so this is the situation. So that's what makes us eat our humble pie, because Virgo say, well, sorry, kiddo, you don't have experience. We just need to, you know, like somebody obviously is gonna, you know, give you an opportunity, and then we have to work on it. We have to work for it. We have to work towards our self-mastery, right? So Libra is the first archetype of the northern hemisphere, the one where you're integrating into the society. But it doesn't mean that you got this figure out. You know, it's like, okay, I just came from this first job, I have this experience, but what does that mean? You know, it's not like I know everything yet. So Libra, it's helping us to become balanced, you know, and it's through interaction with different people, like readjusting, because now we know, okay, yes, your life is about you 100%, and you creating it because you are the creator of this reality, but we still have to interact with other creators of their reality who have the same authority in their own life, in their own reality. So there are all these different realities happening simultaneously around us, because, you know, people tell you their story and might be completely different from yours, even though you might have the same physical experience. So anyway, so without getting too confusing and complicated, as is normal with Pisces full moon, Mars is going to move into Libra later on today. So during the lunation, it is already there. And it's going to make an inconjunction, blind spot to Saturn. Now it's saying, okay, what we work in now, and for this year and a half, while the nodes are in a Aries Libra axis, which is all about relationships and trying to strike the balance. You know, it's not all about, oh yeah, I just want to be alone for the rest of my life because nobody understands me, or oh yeah, I just want to sacrifice everything I am and be a people pleaser, and just in order to belong and fit in and not cause conflict, because it's too much, you know, it's too much. Like with the Libra, no, I don't want any conflicts, like, you know, whatever you say. And then obviously that creates this frustration or anger or being passive aggressive or become manipulative, because At the end of the day, you need what you need. You want what you want, and there is a reason for it. You know, you are a unique expression of the source. So actually understanding ourselves on a deeper level, just what we had the opportunity to do during the North Node transits through Taurus, you know, since 2020 until like now, not 2020, January 2022 until July 2023, just recently, we had the opportunity to learn about ourselves, what matters to us, our needs, our values, our self-love, our self-worth, all these kind of things. And now Mars, being the ruler of the North Node, is helping us to put it in practice. But because the South Node is in Libra and is the resolution to the skip step, to Pluto squaring the nodes, it's saying, well, but there is something that we need to resolve first, which is actually acknowledging, finding out, figuring out, like, what is it that got us to this point in the first place? Like, where did we externalize our power? And we have to take responsibility, because Saturn is in Pisces. Saturn is like, I'm not gonna do it for you. You know, we're moving into this new era, Aquarius age. Saturn is moving into Aries in 2026. Same with Neptune. Uranus is moving into Gemini, and Pluto will be already in Aquarius. By that point, I'll have my Pluto square. So anyway, and all of you Scorpio, early Scorpios, we all will have our death and rebirth by then. But anyway, that's off the track. But what I'm trying to say, Saturn is saying, no, we enter a new era. It's a time for everybody to become their own authority and take responsibility for their life, for their actions, because this is the only way any of us will ever feel free. The only way. You will never feel free if you depending on someone else to tell you how to live your life. You know, it's never going to happen. It's never going to make us feel in charge. It's never going to make us feel empowered, self-empowerment. This is what it is about. So Mars moving into the sign of Libra is kind of like in a tricky territory, because it's the sign of its detriment, right? Because Mars is in rulership in Aries. So when it's in Libra, it's like, meh, you know, I don't know what I'm doing here. It's like, I don't want to have to consider everybody else, right? But what's actually going on here, because Mars is obviously in closing phase to the South Node until they have conjunction, which I can't tell you the exact date, but you know, it's gonna happen around eclipses for sure. Actually, it's gonna happen sooner. It's gonna happen next month, later on this month. Actually, didn't I check it? Why did I not check it? Now I'm curious, so I'm gonna have to check. Just bear with me. Okay, I'm back. I had to check. I couldn't help myself. So the exact conjunction between Mars and the South Node is going to happen on October 4th. And this is very interesting because Mercury is going to move into Libra on October 5th. I remember saying that because it's my sister's birthday. I said it on my last video. So this is very interesting. Obviously, for me, it's always fascinating when things are happening at the same time. So Mars, to pick up on what I left off, Mars is in a closing phase with the South Node. And South Node is obviously ruled by Venus, who is retrograde at the moment. Venus accumulating information. Also, Venus is going to move into, where is she now? She's going to move into Virgo in October as well. So it's like all these things are happening simultaneously. So Venus is gathering information, now going retrograde, making these free aspects to Uranus, Jupiter, and Chiron, right? And she's the ruler of Jupiter and Uranus. So there is all these readjustments going on because there are all these squares happening. Squares create tension, you know, like, yeah, we need to change something because this is not taking us any further anymore. It creates this desire for change. And then Venus is doing her thing. Then she's going to go direct now. And then she's going to move into Virgo in October, also just on time for her eclipse, because it will be the first eclipse in Libra, so Venus will be the ruler. So at the same time, Mars is in a closing phase with South Node, so Mars is helping us to understand, like, okay, we are closing this way of relating. This is not taking us any further. This is not going to support us, because Mars is the ruler of the North Node in Aries, is not going to support us on this new evolutionary path to be externalizing our power, continuously wanting to lose yourself just to be able to be with someone else, because this is never going to create a healthy, balanced, equal relationships, because then always somebody else is in power. It's always this, you know, somebody wins, somebody loses, right? And I know this older generation loves saying about compromise, but compromise, it's to compromise yourself. It's about finding the solution that's perfect for everything. It's not about I give up something so you get what you want. and next time you give up something, but it's about how we can make it work for both of us. It's the win-win. How can we create a win-win situation? So this is pretty much the story of the North Node in Aries and South Node in Libra. It's about how can we relate in a new way that would allow us to be equal. Not that somebody is in charge or somebody else feels disempowered or victimized or whatever, but how can we relate in a new way where everybody is winning? There is no one losing. There is no one who has to compromise themselves. So now Mars, because Mars is entering the sign of Libra today, and it will be in the sign of Libra during the full moon, and it's in conjunction, blind spot to Saturn. We don't know what that means yet, because we have another 17 months 17 months, I believe, of these nodes transiting through Aries, Libra. So it's just like we have to first, and that's the funny thing, which during one of my conversations with one of my friends, I said, because she was like, so what does it mean if the nodes are going from the higher degree to the lower degree? And I'm like, I think it means that we have to decondition first before we can start from the fresh. so the node, the south node going backwards, obviously through the sign of Libra now, we have to understand that, okay, what got us to this point? Why is it like this? Why the relationship? I mean, I've never been married, and I don't have the best relationship track record myself, but when we look at the state of the world, I mean, how many people have successful relationships? I don't know, I'm sure there are some, but how many? Because we weren't being taught. We weren't taught how to be equal. We weren't told how to be able to be authentic and individuated, and also how to be able to regulate ourselves and our emotion, and not having to have to externalize our power and trying to play games and manipulation and all these kind of things to get what we want, but in an indirect way. It's like it goes so deep, and I always refer people to Till Swan, because she explains all these things very well. I am not a relationship expert in no way, definitely not, but Mars being in a closing phase with South Node now for another month, because of the conjunction happening on October 4th, because I just checked, there is the opportunity for actually seeing that this is not taking us any further. Is this totality of understanding what it means for us as a human collective to relate to one another. And everything is relational. It's not just your relationship with your partner. Everything in your life is relational. It's your relationship with your car, with the bank clerk, with anyone, anything is relational. So how did we relate to one another and to the things in our life? Because everything's got consciousness, even to nature, right? How did we relate until this point, then now lost meaning? It's not going to take us any further. So that's why during this lunation, even though it is a full moon, so we have more understanding, because it's illumination, point of illumination, is the integration point. So we might have this aha moment, right? But it's nothing is fully clear. Okay, I might understand this doesn't make sense anymore. It doesn't have a meaning for me anymore. But what do I replace it with, right? And that's because Saturn and Mars is the ruler of the North Node. Saturn is the ruler of Pluto. Everybody is retrograde apart from Mars. There is an inconjunction. It's a blind spot. We don't know. We need to learn more. Obviously, during the time, and I keep mentioning this, and I will continue to keep mentioning this, during the time when Mars became the ruler of the North Node, Mars was in Virgo. At the time of me recording this video, Mars is still in Virgo, just about. And that means that there is an adjustment that needs to take place. There is a learning, adjusting. There is us to actually acknowledge, because Mercury, the ruler, that there is more than one truth, there is more than one way to do this, there is more than one perception of reality, there is multiple realities happening at the same time, always. And now we are starting to understand, we're starting to awaken to this understanding, understanding that we are multidimensional being, having a multidimensional experience, and then awakening to this understanding requires us well, it requires, like, naturally changes our life. It changes everything. And Jupiter is just about to go retrograde in Taurus. So again, Jupiter will help us to reevaluate what is this truth? What is the truth about me, about my abilities, about my skills, about who I am? You know, what is it? Because Jupiter is in a closing phase with Uranus. They're going to have conjunction in April next year, just after the eclipse season. And Jupiter is saying that, well, we need to change the way we see reality, you know, the lens through which we perceive our reality. It's changing, because Uranus is you know, it's going to move into Gemini in 2026, and Gemini is what? It's our cognitive function, it's our communication, it's how we identify reality, it's all these multiple options. When Uranus moves into Gemini, I mean, I cannot even imagine what that will mean for us and how that will change our abilities to communicate and interact with each other for the upcoming 8 years, or however long, you know, Uranus exactly will be there. I don't have the exact dates, but it's gonna be for a while, and how that's gonna change everything. And Uranus will be the ruler of Pluto. So I mean, this is not something that is just, I mean, I joke, you know, I make fun out of it, because I mean, what do? You cry, right? Like, you have to make a little bit of light of these things, because it's inevitable. Like, when we look at the state of the world and the state of how humanity has progressed, how humanity is going in circles, right? I mean, everything is going in cycles. But I mean, it just breaks my heart, and this is me being Aquarian weirdo and never understanding human race anyway, and thinking like, how do we still behave the same way? You know, like, why there is still war? Why there is still hate? Why there is all this division and separation? And now, don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't get triggered and I'm best friend with everyone. Absolutely not. You know, I have my things I'm working on, because Uranus, trauma, right? There is a lot of things coming to the surface, and I disclose that. Like, yeah, this is happening for me. Absolutely, just like for everybody else. I'm not immune. And anyway, but what I'm trying to drive home here is that the world is going to change completely. You are changing, your life will change, or I mean, the people who will not change, I don't quite know what's going to happen with all of that. Like, I don't know, because everything is changing. I mean, I don't have a fortune, I'm not a fortune teller, I'm just an astrologer. And yeah, and all this stuff, especially this Virgo season until the equinox, it's preparing us. It's preparing us, and this lunation, this full moon in Pisces, is especially helping us to understand, because Mercury is retrograde, and I mean, you know, obviously Mercury is still the ruler of Mercury is the ruler of the sun, so is the ruler of sun being in Virgo, even though obviously the lunation ruler is Neptune. And actually there is an opposition. It's not an exact opposition, but there is an opposition between Mercury and Neptune, you know, like during this lunation, because it's where is Mercury? 19 degrees. Yeah, it's 7 degrees orb. So we count it, you know, even though obviously the exact, opposition is not going to take place until later on in September. Do I have a date for that? Okay, let me pause again. Okay, so the exact opposition between Neptune and Mercury will happen on October 2nd. So that's what I mean. There are aspects that are in play at the moment, but because of all these retrogrades that are going on in the sky, things are not necessarily exact. But the interesting thing is that both the rulers, the ruler of the sun and the ruler of the moon, which are the participant of the full moon, are both in the sign of their rulerships. I mean, you know, like from a traditional point of view, Mercury is exalted in Virgo, not just in rulership, but in its exaltation. In modern astrology, it's in Aquarius, it's exaltation. But anyway, all that said, again, what I'm trying to say is that there are things that are adjusting. There are things that we don't understand, that we can't see fully. All we can actually perceive at the moment is the understanding, is the reconnecting with our intuition and having this sense, this understanding. We don't have a logical explanation. Like, I don't know why that is happening. I don't know why I feel this way, but I just know. And is this, again, an encouragement to trust yourself? Because Mercury will forever be the ruler of Mars at the time when Mars became the ruler of the North Node. So it's, again, this opportunity for actually understand that you are the one that is creating the decisions in your life. and you are the one that can change whatever is happening in your life. It's all up to you. And if you don't know how, then you can get the tools, you can get the whatever it is that you need. But at the end of the day, everything that we need is within us. It's just a matter of removing the blockages that are standing between us and reconnecting with that thing that is within us, already present. So this is another interesting thing that's happening during this lunation. Now, apart from that inconjunction that's going on between Mars and Saturn, we also have an inconjunction. We have actually a lot of inconjunction during this lunation. So we have an exact inconjunction between Mercury and Chiron. Exact one. Literally during this lunation is an exact inconjunction between Mercury and Chiron. Is the same thing. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is in Aries. Chiron is ruled by Mars. And Chiron is saying that cycle of us, like the wounding comes from us not being able to go in the direction that we are being called by our desires, I don't want to use the word in a very lightly, but your soul's desire, your instinctual desire to go after something in your life that is present in you, only you know what it is, but there is in everyone, there is something like, I really want to experience this. There is this calling in your heart, in your soul, that's pulling you to certain direction, and it's saying, this is something I really want to experience. I don't know why, it's just how it is. And this Chiron being in Aries is now saying it's enough to continuously feel wounded or guilty or ashamed or whatever, because of the conditioning that in many cases, for majority of people and for all of our generations, majority of generations that came before us, Pisces age, people couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They didn't have the same opportunities, the same tools, the same anything, right? It was completely different times. But now Chiron is in Aries. It's saying, well, it's time. It's time. We have to get over this insecurity and this fear that is keeping us paralyzed, and say, no, I can't do it, let's just stay stuck in a comfort zone. And now Uranus is in Taurus, so comfort zone is becoming not so comfortable anymore, and it will continue to do so. So Mercury, it's retrograde. Mercury is accumulating information, is in a sign of his rulership exaltation, so it's working very hard, it's working very proficiently. Mercury is gathering information that he's passing on to Chiron and saying, hey mate, I don't know yet. It's an inconjunction, it's a blind spot. They're gonna meet again when Mercury goes direct. So Mercury is saying, let me work on it a bit more, because I am not 100% sure. I need to work on it some more for a little bit longer. And Chiron is doing also retrograde. Chiron is also going retrograde, and Chiron is like, yeah, I'm working on this myself, what is the right way to go forward, right? They both being ruled by Mars. Mars is still in Virgo today, but it will be in Libra during the time of this lunation. And Mars gonna be in Libra. So it's in detriment. Mars is well, I don't do very well here. I'm not exactly having fun here, because I'm trying to figure out how to relate to people in a new way. And there are all these inconjunctions. So it's what the hell does that mean? Nobody taught us, nobody showed us. So we are figuring out for ourselves. Is all this Aries energy. It's all these baby steps, all these I don't know what I'm doing. Can somebody help me? Because I don't know. But it's not in a sense of somebody can do it for you. It's again, this child analogy. If you wouldn't let your child to learn how to tie its shoelaces, then what they're gonna do when they're at school and they're around or something. They cannot depend on someone else to do it for them forever, right? At some point they have to do it for themselves. And how confident they become when they can do it and they master it, and then they just do it automatically like the rest of us. And and it's this achievement, right? So that's what's going on right now. And this is again, all these things are happening simultaneously. There are all these cycles ending because of all these closing phases, because between so many things, between so many planets, and I already named them. Jupiter is in closing phase with Uranus, North Node with Chiron, Saturn with Neptune. Now at the moment, obviously, Mars will be in a closing phase with South Node. There are so many closing phases. So no wonder we don't know what this new thing look like yet, because there are all these things that we need to heal, integrate, readjust, and find out a new way of doing them first. And that's what I mean. So this, like, everybody is going retrograde, and this Mars is going direct, but it's going to be in Libra, which is the sign of his detriment, in a closing phase with South Node. So it's say, well, I have a totality of understanding what this means, this relating in this way, being impacted with the society in this way and stuff. But where to now? Where from now? So obviously after that conjunction with South Node will take place, and then there will be a new phase between the two of them, and then subsequently Mars will move into the house of his rulership, Scorpio, and then this will be just after the full moon in Aries, and then we have eclipse season, and there will be a new moon solar eclipse in Libra, the first one of this axis. And all these things will start ramping up again. Like, at the moment, we are not meant to know. So, yeah, let me just name the rest of them, because, it's 44 minutes recording, so it's time to shut up soon. And so anyway, so as I mentioned, in conjunction between Mars and Saturn, in conjunction between Mercury and Chiron, exact on that day, exact. Then we already had, which nobody talked about, I forgot about it myself, we had an exact in conjunction between South Node, again in Libra, and Neptune in Pisces. And this happened on the new moon in Leo, on the 16th. And it was exact. It's still active. It's still within the degree. This is going to carry on, because obviously South Node is retrograde, Neptune is retrograde. So this is still in action, but it happened exactly on that new moon in Leo. So again, Neptune, dissolving the past cycles. South Node, something that we, need to adjust, something that we need to change, because it's not like we completely moving away from that. That's what I mean. Like, we always need people and relationships in our life, because this is what we came here to experience. We learn through relationships, but we are just wanting to do it in a different way, where there is an equality and nobody has to sacrifice themselves and what matters to them, or become someone else just in order to fit in, just as we've been conditioned by the society. Oh yeah, if you want to have a successful relationship, you just have to do all these things. You pretty much have to become someone else, but it's okay, then you're gonna have whoever you want, but it's not who you are, is it? So how long can we keep it up? And look at the state of the relationships in the world right now. It didn't really work out for us so well, did it? So anyway, without being like doom gloom here. So this is the second one. So the third one was this Neptune in conjunction. And then we also have an exact in conjunction. Well, exact in conjunction is not going to take place until January 2024. But we have in conjunction between South Node and Uranus at the same time. So obviously, they will keep moving. So, they're not going to catch up with each other on the exact degree until January, and that's interesting, because of course, that's when Pluto's going to move back into Aquarius. So there is also an exact, well, not an exact, but degree in conjunction between South Node and Uranus. So that's what I mean. There are all these blind spots, all these big players, like Neptune, Uranus, Chiron, all these big players that influence us on a collective level in such a depth that it completely like changes the state of the world. It's all in conjunction. It's all blind spots. Like, we don't know, we can't see, and it's the full moon in Pisces. So everything is behind the veil. There is a lot of confusion. There is a lot of like, I just want to stay in La La Land. I don't want to deal with this, all these fairy tales, right? Like, just look at the Hollywood, it's all fake. So yeah, so this is something that we can't see yet, like all of it anyway, but we getting the understanding, because we feel something not right. I can feel it. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's my intuition telling me. So last time when we had the lunation, there was the kite in the sky. Well, this is kind of disintegrating at the moment. Even though we can still say there is a, instead of Mars, that is in the same position or similar position, there is a Mercury. So it's kind of still active, but this, well, even like with the trine, you can still say that there is the Earth trine between Mercury, Pluto, and Uranus, Mercury, Pluto, and Uranus between the Earth signs, grand Earth trine. It's still active, but it's kind of like, again, the Mercury is a little bit getting too far from Pluto now. However, we've got the perfect trine still between Uranus and Pluto, Everybody retrograde, Uranus retrograde, Pluto retrograde, even Mercury is retrograde now. And there is also this sextile between Neptune and Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. So again, whatever is happening in our reality right now, it's happening exactly as it's supposed to, as it meant to. It's happening to support us on evolutionary path, because things need to change, because we're not going to be going somewhere into a different reality if nothing changes, right? It's not possible. It's not possible. So anyway, so this, I think, all my notes. So I just talk about 40 minutes about the same aspect. But bottom line, okay, let's like come to the conclusion of all of this, is that we have a full moon in Pisces on Wednesday. There is Uranus station in retrograde just before that take place, like literally like 48 hours before or something, less than 2 days before. We have Mars moving into Libra today, so that will be in action during these upcoming few lunations. And we have Saturn today Saturn is opposing Sun, yes. So Saturn will be conjuncting Moon, so it's going to be conjuncting this full moon in Pisces. Saturn is ruled by Pisces. Saturn is in retrograde. The ruler of this new moon, full moon. The ruler of this full moon, Neptune, is retrograde. The ruler of the sun, Mercury, is retrograde. So you know what I mean, guys. Like, don't try to figure it out, okay? Just give yourself a break. All you know is what your intuition is telling you, and you just have to trust it. You just have to learn to trust it, because when we are at this time and age, when there are so many lies and deceptions and confusion and disillusionment, all Neptune on a low vibration, what is the higher vibration of Neptune? Spirituality, meditation, stillness, being in the nature, water, because water, we are 70% water. So it's just like whatever is imprinted in your emotion, but you have an opportunity, you can change it with music, with dancing, with whatever, again, meditation, time in stillness, all these kind of things. And that's what I was talking about in my last video, that I had this, well, not full week, but an opportunity to just be with myself. And I had so many realization when I really felt that my life shifted on its axis, even though nothing changed. At the moment anyway, like I'm going to Slovakia on Wednesday, just before this full moon takes place. And I'm like, okay, yeah, Mercury retrograde, that always happens when it's Mercury retrograde. I usually go to revisit. But that's what needs to take place. There is a lot of revisitation that is taking place at the moment to help us understand, understand, because we don't have a full clarity. We don't fully know what the hell is happening, what is being created, what is being birthed, like what is this new thing that's coming, because there are a lot of things that end in first. They have to end first for the new thing to be clear to us, to become clear to us. And by the time Uranus goes direct at the end of January, all the planets will be direct again, I believe, unless Mercury goes retrograde again. I'm not 100% sure, but all the rest of them will be direct again. So that again will be full stream ahead. So again, just to repeat, this Virgo season is an opportunity for a lot of introspection, a lot of practical applications. Just stay grounded. In one sense, there are a lot of things happening behind the veil that we don't fully understand yet, that we don't understand the meaning, the reason behind it, all that. But at the same time, life goes on. Virgo, kids go back to school, the food shopping has to be done, the dinner has to be cooked, the trash has to be taken out. There are all these things happening simultaneously, just like Virgo is in opposition with Pisces. Pisces is all about this la 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 spirituality, and then Virgo is like, hey, but we need to be practical, okay? so it's the balance. How can we find a time for both, to be practical but also to leave a space for magic, to leave a space for imagination and visualization, and this, not necessarily just hope, but this trust that something is coming, something better, something different, because you are the creator of it, so you decide what it is, So anyway, guys, I think I talked enough. Talked enough and too much. I hope that this made sense. Once again, I hope that it offered some help, because like I said, I know what it feels like. Well, from my experience this week, it's been a lot of confusion, a lot of aha moment, a lot of like feeling a little bit lost and like, what do I do with this? Where do I go from here? So it's again just a matter of just trust. That's the only thing. You have to trust yourself, and you have to trust that everything that's happening, there is a reason. There is a reason for it, because we cannot create the new without letting go of the old, because we need to create the space. So I feel that this full moon in Pisces is a perfect opportunity for making a peace with that, but at the same time understanding that things are continuously changing and they are in a continuous state of flow, and you have the power to change it. You are the creator of your reality. So yeah, so that's it. That's my little spiel, little almost 1 hour long spiel about what will be going on next week. And as I said, after that there will be fairly quiet. So let's see what's gonna hit us, and then we'll have to integrate it again, and then things will start moving again, but we'll talk about it at some other point. And yeah, I will obviously get together with the girls and see what they have to say about this lunation. We get the video uploaded probably at the middle of the week, and then I also will get together again with my soul sister Marisa for Stars and Cards, where we look at the energies for September. From the tarot and astrology point of view. So stay tuned. Once again, if you enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe. And if you feel somebody else would see a value in it, then share it, because it supports my work, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope that some of it was helpful. Feel free to comment, and I wish everybody a beautiful week ahead, beautiful nebulous full moon in Pisces, and I'll speak to you again soon. Much love. Bye.